Hello and welcome to the Blue Open Studio tutorial video series. The topic of this video will be ODBC communication. In this video, we will be discussing ODBC communication and the properties of the ODBC worksheet. And we will demonstrate configuring an ODBC worksheet and communicating via ODBC to an Excel file. To begin, we will discuss what ODBC means, how ODBC communication works, and how we accomplish it in Blue Open Studio. So what does ODBC mean? It stands for Open Database Connectivity, and it is a standard application programming interface or API for accessing database management systems or DBMS, and it is aimed to be independent of database and operating systems. And ODBC accomplishes DBMS independence by using a driver as a translation layer between the application and the database management system. This is similar to certain aspects of how OPC communication works. And how we accomplish ODBC communication in Blue Open Studio is we use a background task for the ODBC communication. And it runs in a network environment and uses a standard Windows ODBC configuration. And the task is capable of data interchange between the Blue Open Studio application and any database supporting this interface. And this database can include Excel or Access files. So for example, if we have a Blue Open Studio application, we can use the ODBC task to communicate to the operating system, and then that uses the ODBC driver as the translation layer to go to the application, be it Excel, Access, or relational databases or SCADA systems like KEP Server EX. We'll now demonstrate how to configure an ODBC connection to an Excel file. Unlike the other communication methods that we've seen so far, this one is not located on the COM tab in the Project Explorer. It is located on the Tasks tab. And you'll see about halfway down ODBC. We will right-click, select Insert, and now we see the ODBC worksheet laid out similar to the rest of the communication worksheets. You'll see significantly more fields that have to be configured for ODBC versus any of the other communication methods. This is by far the most complicated communication method to configure. So we see a description, then we see a data source name. This is the data source name for the Windows ODBC data source administrator. This is essentially the driver that Windows will use to communicate to the specific file. Then we see a username and password field if authentication is required. And starting below that, the next rows are actually for configuring the connection and triggering different actions. The table field, in this case, since we are connecting to an Excel file, would be the worksheet name. Then condition field is the search condition. If you are familiar with SQL, this will essentially emulate a SQL query that would be sent to the database. Then you have a status field for a tag that would receive the status of whatever action you are executing. The transaction completed field is a tag that will notify you when the transaction or action has been completed. Then we have triggers for select, next, insert, delete, and update. These can be Booleans, and when the value is changed or toggled, it will trigger whichever action it is configured for. For example, the select trigger will run the condition or the query against the data source to return the values you're looking for. And then on the worksheet body, we have the tag name column where we put in the tags that we would use in Blue Open Studio. And then the column is for, in our case, the specific columns in the Excel worksheet. You can see all of the different fields that we can configure. So what we will do now is we will create a brand new class to use for this ODBC connection. So I will go to the Global tab in the Project Explorer, expand Classes, right-click, and select Insert Class, and I will give it a name of lowercase c, then ODBC. Now, there will be several members that we'll be adding to this. And there is a text file with all of these members located in the training files zip folder that you've extracted. I have them listed here off screen, so I'm simply going to copy and paste them in, and there should be 12. Once I have that configured, I will close the class and then open the project tags datasheet view, and I will add a new tag called ODBC. And I will change the data type from integer to ODBC and change the scope from server to local. I will then close my project tags, and now I can start configuring the ODBC worksheet. For description, simply going to put in training ODBC Excel. For the data source name, now this is something that we will need to configure as well. For now, I'm going to put in what I'm going to use, which is my DSN Excel. No spaces, no dashes. I'm going to leave user and password fields empty. And for the table, we now have to tell it what worksheet in the Excel file we're going to use. So what I'm going to do is first open the Excel file we're going to use, which is going to be in my training application directory, and it will be ODBC_demo. I copied this out of the training files extracted zip folder. And once I open it, I see that my worksheet name is ODBC, and I see my column names, Boolean, integer, real, and string. These will also come into play later. So I can close this, close Windows Explorer, come back in here, and for table, I will enter in the worksheet name, ODBC. However, it will not work just like that. We will have to tell Blue Open Studio that this connection is for an Excel worksheet. To do that, we use the $sign. Additionally, putting it in just like this is not enough because of how the connection string is configured. We have to encapsulate this table or worksheet name inside of quotes. We'll skip condition for now. So for status, I will right click, select insert tag, find my ODBC class, select member, and I am going to select the error code member. Now I have that added in. I will leave transaction completed blank because we really don't need it for our test. For the select trigger, I'm going to type in ODBC.select. Next trigger, I'm going to type in next data. In the insert trigger, ODBC.insert. And for delete, ODBC.delete. And update. Update. You notice that I put two P's inside of update. So if I tab out of this, it will tell me it's an invalid name. So it automatically checks the syntax to see if the tag exists. It says it's invalid. Okay, so I have to come back, and you saw that it highlighted the field that's invalid. I update it, and we're good. Now, for the tag names, we're going to use predefined, which once again I have in a text file that is located in the training files zip folder. And we will use the ODBC.column_Boolean, integer, real, and string. And now for the column names, we saw them inside of the Excel file. And we just happen to name our tags similar to the column names, so it'll be easy to match up. So the first one is going to be Boolean. Second will be integer, then real, and finally string. So now we almost have the ODBC worksheet configured. The only thing that we are missing for our demo is the condition field. And the condition field can be a static value, just a string of characters, a string of text, if you simply want to retrieve the same results every time. or you can put tags in and use them to configure a dynamic search string. The problem is that this field is a straight text field, meaning if we want to use tags, we have to put them in curly brackets. So what we're going to use is 2 tags, and we're going to separate them by an equal sign. So as good practice, I put my open and closed curly brackets first, and then I will simply add in the tags afterward. So the first tag we will use will be ODBC dot column search. And unfortunately, since it's a straight text field, we cannot select a tag to add in there. And then the second tag will be ODBC dot data search. Now our ODBC worksheet is complete. Before we walk through configuring the Windows ODBC Data Source Administrator, I want to mention that you may be required to download and install the Microsoft Access Database Engine redistributable in order to configure the Data Source Administrator properly. And it will depend on not only the bit version of Windows you have installed, but just as importantly, the bit version of Microsoft Office you have installed, if any. For example, for me, my Windows is a 64-bit version of Windows. However, I am running the 32-bit version of Microsoft Office. And as far as the version year is concerned, I've picked 2016 because it is the most recent. Don't worry about this link. I have it down in the description of the video, so you can just simply click on it to get to this web page. And this is the download page for the Microsoft Access Database Engine 2016 redistributable. So we click on download, and we come up and we see we have 2 options. The Access Database Engine.exe is for 32-bit, and then the Access Database Engine _ x64.exe is for 64-bit. Just simply click on the one you want, click next, it will begin to download. Once download's complete, when you install this redistributable, make sure that you right-click on the exe and select to run as administrator. That way the components and services get installed properly with the proper permissions. Once it's installed, then we can proceed to configure the Windows ODBC Data Source Administrator. All we have left to configure is the Windows ODBC Data Source Administrator. There are 2 ways to get to that. The first is simply through Windows, going through the control panel, or if you have a modern version, you can just search for ODBC and then select the data sources ODBC. Second would be to search through Windows Explorer and go to C, Windows System 32. So now on the ODBC Data Source Administrator, we have to add a new user data sources. So I'm going to click Add on the User DSN tab, and I am going to select Driver Do Microsoft Excel, and in parentheses star.xls. I click Finish, and now it comes up with the setup. And for the data source name, I'm going to put in what we have selected here for data source name on the ODBC worksheet. So my DSN Excel. I'm going to leave the description blank. I mean, you could put something in like BOS training demo, my data source that I've created, whatever the case may be. For the version, we will leave it set to Excel 97 through 2000. Now, we have to select a workbook in order for this connection to work properly. So we will click on Select Workbook, and we will navigate to our program folder, which is on C drive for me, BOS_training. And you see the database name show up here on the left-hand side if any Excel files are present in the selected directory. So I will select ODBC demo.xls. I will uncheck read only, click OK, and then under options, I will make sure that in this driver section, the read only box is unchecked as well. Click OK, and now we see our new data source name configured in the User DSN tab. Once we have that configured, we can come back here, and now we are ready to demo. The only thing left is to configure how we will display information. So on the database SPY, I'm going to go to the DB4 tab. In the training files folder, we have a text file with a list of tags for the database SPY. I'm simply going to copy them out of the text file and paste them in here. And now I'm going to expand this out so I can see them all. And just to make it a little easier to see, I'm going to insert a blank line in between a few of these just to kind of break it up. So now I have my tags that will send and receive the values. Then I have my actions, be it select, next, insert, delete, or update. And then I have my 2 search tags and the error code, or the status of the last action. Once we have that all configured, we can click Save. Save the new ODBC as sheet number 1. And if we go back to tasks, we now see our ODBC worksheet show up. Now we are ready to test the communication. The first thing I'm going to do, though, is I will go back into my application folder and open the ODBC demo. I will then snap it to the right side of my screen and then snap Blue Open Studio to the left. I'll then begin the runtime. Once that comes up, I'll go back into the development and display the Excel file. And the first thing I will want to do is search. So for the search string, you have to set it up to where it says column or field if you're looking at a database, column equals and then a value. So for column search, because of how we have our condition set up, I'm going to put in a column name. In this case, I'm going to say string. For data search, I'm going to put in the value I want to look for. And like I mentioned earlier, if you have any experience with SQL queries, when you're looking for an actual value, you have to put it inside of single quotes. We have to do the same thing here when we're looking for the data. So in this case, in the data search tag, I want to look for line 4. So I'm going to do single quote, line space 4, single quote. Now I have my 2 search fields completed. So I'll come up to select, and I will want to change the value of this Boolean tag from 0 to 1. We can do it one of 2 ways. I can just simply type in a 1 and hit enter, or I can right click and select toggle. It will accomplish the same thing. And you see that the search ran, it selected the appropriate values for that row and brought them back into the corresponding tags. So we see for line 4 came into string, 1, 2, 3, 4.5 came into real, quadruple 4s came into integer, and Boolean came into 0. Now we can also search for multiple values by coming down to column, and let's say I change that from string to Boolean, and then I change my data search to a 0. Now you notice that I did not put single quotes here. This is because I'm not looking for a string. I am looking for an actual numerical value. I do not have to use single quotes for this. Once I have that configured, I will come up to the select tag. I will toggle it. And now you see that it comes back with the first result. If I toggle the next data, it moves to the result after that. If I would toggle it again, nothing happens except for an error code of 5. Now, we don't know what that error code means because we haven't seen where those codes are configured. If we open up the techgraph or help file by hitting F1, we can come up and make sure we're on search. And if we search for ODBC, well, partway down we see ODBC. We double click on it and it brings up an explanation or description of the ODBC worksheet. If we scroll part way down here, we see a list of BOS error codes, and they're broken up by the commands: select, next, insert, update, and delete. Our error code was 5, So we see next command 5, error in the ODBC set function. Essentially what this means is that we reach the end of the result set. These are very generic error codes, but they at least give you notification when an error occurs and at least what type of error you ran into. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact ProFace America Technical Support by phone at 1-800-289-9266, option 2, or by email, support@profaceamerica.com. You can also visit our website, profaceamerica.com, for manuals, drivers, product FAQs, and other product and software information. Thanks again, and have a great day.